The game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want, and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm
Get a mic check. Test, test.
Don't take for granted, stay humble.
Guys, I must apologize. I tried to stream earlier, but I've been having some technical difficulties.
Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's
Bear with me, we will be starting shortly.
And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just double up, don't be scared. I'm so gone, no, I'm never turning back. I won't stop, I'ma fight until there's nothing left. It's so on, you're gonna be hurting bad, cause I've been to hell and back. You don't wanna make me mad, I stay strong. You will never see me crack, and if you get in my way, you're gonna feel the wrath. Gotta say it to my face while he's looking back. Mirror breaks after math, when I hate, I attack.
And there's Moo Man saying loud and clear. That is good to know. I've been fighting with this thing all day. All right, we are getting ready to start. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's try this. There we go. How are we doing today? Make sure I don't have any thing going on in the background that I should know about. All right. And just when I thought I was all ready to go, bear with me just a second. Does seem to be a little bit of a lag. Bear with me, guys. Just trying to get a little bit of music going for a change. All right, guys, I think we're ready. So we have Movman here. How you doing, Movman? Let me get these headphones off so it doesn't get me all crazy here. All right. So today we're talking basically about market structure. Going to spend a few minutes early on talking about that, and then we'll start getting into the charts. And I'll tell you right now, Bitcoin is looking nice. What it just did from where it was before I was started messing with the live stream around 3 o'clock, trying to get that started. It has done what I'd hoped it would do. It's looking good at the moment. All right, let me get to a blank spot here. Just grab this chart. Take us up on a higher time frame. And the topic that I'm going to start out with today, this being chart school, and that's what this whole thing is about, is to help you learn technical analysis and learn some things that will help you avoid getting caught up on the wrong side of a trade. Let me blow this screen up just a little bit. And so we got 3 types of market structure. And you have your uptrend, you have your downtrend, and then you got sideways. Okay. Now, in each of these, what we're looking for is how price moves. So in an upward trend, we're looking for price to go up, make a high, it'll get rejected, it'll come down, and it'll make a low, but that low is higher than the last low. From there, we look for another high, which should be higher than the last high, and it'll keep doing this and make a series of highs and lows, and that's our uptrend. Now, the same thing happens, of course, in a downtrend. We make a low, we make our high, then we make a lower low, a lower high, and we kind of set this whole zigzag moment. Now, each of these areas that we look at here at our bottoms and even at our tops, those are support and resistance areas. And I've covered that, I believe, in my very first live stream, and also have videos on that. But those are areas that we want to mark as support and resistance because, price can come back down to those areas. So that's worth noting. But the biggest thing that I want to show you about this is if you take your little line tool over here and you'll go and find your point and you'll connect those, you line that up and you identify your trend. And as long as it doesn't break below this line, we're doing good. So that's the first thing that I want to draw your attention to when you're looking at these charts and you're trying to figure out if it's a good time to buy, a good time to get out. Draw your trend lines, especially start on the bottom. If it's an upward trend, you want to know, because if price falls back down to this trend line and breaks through it, that's a sign that this trend is over. And that's the keys you want to look for. When that happens, price action usually, not always, but most of the time will come back up to this trend line area for what we call a retest. And if it does not make it back up past that line again, and chances are that it will not, but sometimes it does in what we call a fake out, that's a good time to get out of that trade or decide to go short. You got some options there, but you don't want to take a long. You don't want to bet for price to be going up once we break these trend lines. Now, the same thing is true in a downtrend. And what we do is we draw our trend lines from these bottom valleys here. We connect those. And it's the same deal. I'm sorry. Got a little ahead of myself. In a downturn, we're wanting to see if the price breaks to the upside. So we're connecting the top lines. The trend is already coming down. We know it's coming down. So we want a trend line on the opposite direction, right? See for an upward breakout. Because what should happen, we keep bouncing between this channel. And when we finally get a breakout, it's going to break beyond that little red line, come back up over it. And that's what we're hoping for, that breakout. But like I said, over here on the other side, these can be fake outs. And sometimes we see that, especially in these bear market trends, get a breakout and then boom, it comes back down to the downside. So you avoid that. Let me see if I can extend this line out here. You avoid that by looking for what we call the retest, where it should bounce off of that trend line. Once that happens, that's the safest time to get into a trade, when you see a retest. So upward market structure, and downward market structure. The other one that we have left to talk about is a sideways market structure. And we see that a lot. We see that a lot lately. price might come down like on Bitcoin, and then we kind of trade, kind of go up, and when that structure breaks, we start coming to the downside. But what we're doing is we're trading a range, and that can be measured with trend lines as well. And we see instead of it moving up or moving down, we just got a sideways trend. And this is a good opportunity when this happens, when you see a long sideways motion, ranging motion in whatever coin that you're looking at. It's a good time if you want to work the strategy of buying on these bottoms, taking profit on these tops. And you can get that in 2 or 3 times at least, sometimes maybe even more. And that's something that I've been doing that I will go over today. And I've done it on a Bitcoin pair, Bitcoin and AGIX. That is, how can I not? Singularity.net is the one that I use a lot to do that because it trades in ranges a lot. And that just lets me increase my Bitcoin if you know how to work that. So in short, just to cover, we had upward trends. And let's just go to a Bitcoin chart here. Let's get onto a real chart. We can see it. We got our upward trend. This is a downward trend. This is definitely the big downtrend that we're in now. And let me get this little guy up here. This is our sideways trading range that I'm applying those sideways strategies to. And this all ties back into what we talked about last time with market cycles, right? You remember this? This is the top right here. Like this would be the top of the market cycle. This right here is where we are now, down here at the bottom of the market cycle. It just rinses and repeats. It's a big cycle. So if you've got certain strategies you can apply at the tops, at the bottoms, and in the middles, that is going to help you out. And that's what we're talking about today. All right, so let's go back over to Bitcoin. And I've shown this strategy a lot of times, but let's just break it down. Let's say we're on the daily. Let's say this same thing happens to us over the next few months. We start getting a bump up with Bitcoin, but we just don't know when's a good time to get out of it. When's a good time to take a break from it? Probably the closest thing that we would be seeing would be something in this neighborhood over here. And that'll be up to you and your strategy. But what I would do is draw that trend line. Okay. And I would connect these bottoms. And I would be looking for a bottom here. I would be looking for a bottom here and also a bottom here. Just a moment. And I'll be looking for a break on there. Now, this one's got some leeway. It could possibly be a little confusing sometimes, but that's why I would just keep my lines to their extent there. How I go from a bottom here to a bottom here and to this wick, and that'll keep me in line. Now, if they wick below that, that's not a problem. What we're looking for is a candle close below these lines. That's your signal to get out. So this one so far is telling me we're in a good trend. Probably not a reason to try to get out of it at the moment. Now, where it gets different is when we take this next trend. So we'll draw our trend lines there. We'll keep up with that. We're doing okay here. This would have been a great place to take profit if you know how to read your moving averages and know that the wider they get, that's also a good time to take profit. The point that you would want to entertain selling or getting out of this or going short, we broke this trend line right here, open a new candle below that red line. That would be your shorting opportunity. From there, we would apply this trend line. We would wait for the breakout from there. And this is the candle where it's confirmed. If you were out of a trade, you could get back in it. Ideally, if you were getting out here, you would try to find, and this 50 moving average, this blue line that we have here, on an upward trend is always a great place to look for getting back in. But it's possible you could have took profit here instead of riding all this back down from 36,000 down to 29,000. I mean, that's a nice little discount right there. You'd see your portfolio going down. If you got out here and tried to get back in here, you would have more of your coin, in this case, Bitcoin. And that would just help you out as we start going back up. So it's kind of the same thing. We're drawing these trend lines, making sure we got at least 3 solid touches. Remember, I'm on here on the daily. There's not as much noise on this. And then we wait for a confirmed candle below that, out. And so you can look at this as over on the whole market. I mean, I can draw this trend line to that one, and look, I got a whole new set of of lines right here. And if I wanted to really, really be true to it, connect this one to that one, and that would give me my latest line in the sand right here, when to get out, which was, the top was at 65,000 basically at this point. Your signal to get out was at 55. That's a $10,000 difference. And that's where some other things will come into play as far as taking profits, where you can capitalize on that. And that would involve using moving averages and Fibonacci retracements and stuff like that we'll get into. But what I'm showing you right now is what saves you from all this drawdown. And what you'll see, this is that retest we were talking about. We said the market structure will bounce off of this line, it will break below it, and then it usually comes back up to retest that. And if it does not give above that point, boom, there's another get out point. That's the best get out point. Usually what happens in these situations, people will get scared when the price starts coming down, and it keeps coming down. And a lot of times, you can get out of the market here. And if you do, that's not terrible. It's not terrible. But the wise traders, the smart traders will be looking for signs of this retest, because it usually happens. And a lot of the patterns and things that we look at, they give the statistics for that. And a lot of them usually do have about a 60% chance to come back up to these areas where it broke out from or broke down from. And so the smart and savvy trader, if they got caught, didn't get to get out of this trade here, take a deep breath, because price doesn't always just go immediately straight down. If it breaks a level, there's usually a retest, deep breath, and we wait for these prices to come back up, get out 58, 59,000 versus getting scared and selling anywhere from 53 down to, 48. Some people will be selling and getting out here. In the overall scheme of things, that's not bad, considering that we fell all the way back down to 17,000, even after coming all the way back up to 70. But that would be the first thing that I look at for your market structure, finding your higher highs, higher lows. For an uptrend, lower lows, lower highs for a downtrend. But that one trend line, either on the bottom if it's in an uptrend, or on top if it's in a downtrend, so helpful. And then when we apply those trend lines to both sides, patterns start being revealed. And then that opens up an even broader world for us, because there's some statistics attached to some of these very often repeatable patterns. All right. So that's the biggest thing that I wanted to cover today as far as technical analysis. And so far on the live streams, I've covered the support and resistance, which would be, we're finding these levels, and you see these lines that I have here. These are support resistance lines. I've covered that, how to find them, look to the left to find them, previous support, previous areas of resistance, because they do hold true. From that, we talked about market cycle, which we just touched upon again in this video. And then what I'm leaving you with today is how to identify the trend lines, how to identify a trend, higher highs, higher lows for an uptrend, and then using this trend line, draw a line in the sand to let you know when you need to get out. That'll conclude our lesson for today. Now we can start getting into some coins. We'll start getting into some technical analysis. And of course, I'm going to start right here on Bitcoin and see what we've got going on. All in the daily. Also want to pull up my indicators. Indicators are very helpful. Following the price action will get you in the right neighborhoods and everything, but these other indicators, if you can look at them, they give you so much information to help you figure out, is price strong enough to continue upward, or is it getting ready to go to the downside? That's where these come in, and they help you figure out good times to get in on a trade, good times to get out. Oh, no. Okay. All right, now what we were looking at with Bitcoin, it was getting kind of scary, and you could see that on YouTube. A lot of people getting scared, calling for lots of lower prices, and it's definitely possible. It was definitely possible. I was looking for the sign that we actually got on the lower time frames, but when you zoom out, say to this daily, your first clue is this candle's got a wick. We got our lines here. Let me explain what's going on. We had an inverted head and shoulder that we were looking at, which is a pattern that will give us move to the upside. We broke out of that. We passed the line that we needed to pass and for that to take off. This has got a measured move. Now, this breaking out of this pattern right here should take us up to this measured move, which is about 18,000. It's a very slow process, and we've been doing this over a period of a couple of weeks, and we still haven't got there. But it looks good that we can. The area that we need to be concerned about this pattern that it broke out of, and I always like to go back and look at the last patterns it broke out of. A lot of people I've noticed, when it breaks out of a pattern, they're all of a sudden looking for the new smaller patterns come in, and it's all part of the previous pattern. It's got to play out first, right? We can watch it and gauge it and kind of anticipate what it's going to do with smaller patterns in there, but it's just always good to remember, hey, you had a measured move to come up here. We should be making it up at least toward that direction in that area somewhere. Now, measured move may not always hit perfectly, but there's some things that you can do to kind of make these a little bit more accurate. And as they are, a standard move is fairly accurate. And how you take the measured move from this inverted head and shoulders is you just measure from your neckline to the bottom of the pattern. You take that and you just apply it to the breakout area. And if I can actually click it to the breakout area, and that's where it takes us up to this area. Now I've got a little bit of a different one there, and let's just go ahead and mark that. I'm a little bit lower. And I want to make a note of that. It's about 17.9 that I've got from that. So it behooves you to try to be as accurate as you can with your measured move, because it's not taking you to an exact number, it's taking you to a range. And even those two, the distance between those two right there, that's a range. So even if I were looking at this number 18,000, I would be putting in some sell orders before that just to front run it. And that's just what a lot of traders do. It's all about getting your orders filled. You definitely don't want to have your sell order up here and price just almost get up there. And that terrible feeling gets almost there before it goes down and just wrecks you. So, it's good to take your profit early and often. Okay. So the big move that we got right now is this upward channel. And we did get a bounce here, which is good. So we should be heading toward these upper levels, right? We bounced off these, just like ping pong or something. Bounced off the top, slowly came down more sideways, and we just got our bounce off this bottom. So it may take a little while, but we are headed back up to the top of this line right here, this blue line. This is a price channel. And that will show us the areas that we can actually expect and track for Bitcoin to reach. And that's right in line with our measured move that we have, right around 18,000. So 17,900 up to about 18,000 is what I see coming in for Bitcoin. And this is what will play over the next week or so. Now, if you watch me, and you may see something different between what I do and what some other people do, I do go with a lot of the bigger time frames. And a lot of time you will see the analysis I give. If I make a video, I don't feel like I have to make a video every day or every 2 days, because the analysis I'm looking at plays out over a period of up to a week or so. So I'm looking that far ahead, whereas a lot of these other guys coming on, every day, even live streaming and things like that, I mean, they're taking a lot of the smaller time frames. We're talking about 15 minutes, 17 minute, and that's where they're making their predictions. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's really more suited for day trading. Really short-term trade, something that you would want to get in on that day. It's not a good predictor of where price is going to be next week at all. And that's why I go with these bigger time frames, and I slowly work my way down. I like to start on the daily, and that's good for swing traders. People, you might have a 9-to-5 job. You can't be out here day trading, 5 or 6 hours every day. And really, just to be honest with you, a lot of times it's not as profitable unless you're using a lot of leverage and do your trading right. It can be really risky. So swing trading uses these higher time frames, say like the daily and the 4-hour, work out very well, especially if you have a busy lifestyle. You can consult these, because now I know, over the next few days, I'm expecting to come up here. I would take a trade. It's a good time to look at taking a trade in Bitcoin, especially right in this area, after it broke up above this red line. And the next area that we can look for it coming up to, I would look to our moving average, this 200 moving average. Here's what's got to happen with Bitcoin. The 4-hour time frame is very, very important, especially when it comes to these moving averages like this one, the yellow one. That's a 200 moving average, a 200 candle moving average. What Bitcoin has got to do now is next step is to come up to this level, which is going to be about 17,000 to, what is that, 280? It might get rejected there. Now, if it does, it could come back down just a little bit and then still break through. So that's what we want to look out for. If it definitely gets rejected there, we would be coming back down to this lower line, and we'd be retesting it to see if it holds. We want to step on that floor. If it holds us, we can take a step up. If it falls through, we're falling through with it. But the whole thing about these 200-day moving averages, once we get above that, right there, that puts us officially into a positive swing for Bitcoin on this time frame. On this time frame, the 4-hour, that would put us into bull mode. And, right now, things have been looking pretty good for Bitcoin. It's been a little scary the last few days, but we've been making a series of, we got our low, a higher high, or we got our low, we got a high. This high was higher than this other one, so that signals possible uptrend. We got a lower or a higher low. The confirmation came right here with this higher high. Now we're in a series of an official uptrend, and we're validating that. It got a little scary here, so we've got to keep doing that. We got to get a higher high. We got to break above this level right here at 17,475. Our next move to the upside has got to go above that. If it does not go above that, look for a reversal. Look for more downward action. We would get rejected, and this move would more than likely be over. This upward channel is actually a bearish pattern. About 64% of the time, it will break to the downside. Now, if it were to do that, it's not terrible. It means that we would be coming back down to these areas right here, about 15,500, 15,600, and we would look and see if that area would hold. And if it does, that makes a much bigger pattern for us. Hold a double bottom, and you would be waiting for a price to get back up to this same area. And if it broke above that same area we're looking at now, that would be the go sign. And this would be a very, very good sign. It's actually something that may be in play. We may be seeing this. So if we can't make it above 17,000, 500? That's a good number. If we can't get that and hold it, this is the scenario that I'm looking for Bitcoin. To slowly or quickly make our way back down to these 15,500, 15,600 areas, just to form what we call a double bottom or a W pattern. Some people call it that. Now, the good sign is we had a head and shoulders, inverted head and shoulders here. That's also a bottoming pattern. That's a good one to know to find bottoms. It had a wick here, which looked like it was starting to do a more of a complex pattern, what we call an Adam and Eve, where you have a sharp decline and then kind of a rounding. It didn't really round. Not consider this a rounding at all. But still, a bullish pattern. Nonetheless, it broke to the upside. It's been going in our favor. We're just in a tricky spot, getting into a tricky area right now. And the whole key is 17.5. Got to break it above there. All right. So that's what I see for Bitcoin and what's going on. And we talk about Bitcoin because it affects the whole market. All the altcoins, they depend on Bitcoin. So if you're not tracking Bitcoin, you're not going to have as much luck with the altcoins, because it all depends on the big daddy and the mood it's in and what's going on there. All right. Now, one thing I want to do is take a look at the dollar, because that usually affects our markets too, and that's the DXY. Just wanted to take a quick look at it, see what it's doing. Still kind of where it is. It's flirting with the possibility of going up, though. If it does, stocks and, of course, Bitcoin will hurt. But, it is in kind of a falling wedge type pattern. We got a partial decline in that falling wedge pattern. Green dots on market side from the 4-hour. Let's just go ahead and take a look at the daily. Got a daily dot there. So looks like the dollar is, getting ready to take a move to the upside, maybe do a retest and maybe trade sideways a little bit. We'll have to see how that plays out with the dollar. But usually, if it's on a strong trend up, man, we're going to hurt and we're going to fall down in Bitcoin and crypto and even on Wall Street. So that's why it's good to look at the dollar. Another thing that I like to look at also is the ES1. And, this is more of what's going on with Wall Street and seeing how they're doing. This is Standard & Poor's mini futures. Kind of gives us a good view, see what's going on. Now, this is a positive sign for Wall Street right here. I mean, we broke this market structure here, so we got downside. I don't know what I just told you. If you draw the trend line on any of these charts and you see it break that bottom trend line, baby, that's it. It's over. It came back. It did a retest here. It did another retest right to that same level. This is one thing I want to point out. When you see retest, they can do this one of two ways. Now, either coming back to the same price that you broke out from that line, or it can follow that line all the way up and bounce off that line for a retest. So those are two options there. Looks like it's stuck with the actual exit price here. Now, currently, the Standard and Poor, the S&P 500, is actually in a bullish pattern. I mean, I know it's in a downtrend, but this pattern's actually bullish. It's called a downward megaphone. Is the easiest way to call this. And the best way to think about these patterns is a megaphone, and you're saying, hey, come on back up. You're yelling down and telling them to come back up. And that's a good way to remember this, because that's how they play out. They will stop going down to the bottom of the pattern. They will get around the middle. That's what we call a partial decline. And then that's a good sign that it may be getting ready to break out to the upside. So we came back up here. We just got to break through this trend line, retest that, and then we're doing something else more bullish. What we don't want to do is get rejected here. If we do, then we're coming back down to this partial decline area, and things will be going to the downside for a little bit. But the signs I'm seeing here show us that our probability, which I believe on this pattern was somewhere around 55%. And I don't have statistics committed to my head on this particular one, but it is more than 50% chance to break out to the upside on that. All right. Do we have anybody in chat? If you got any questions or got any coin requests, go ahead and throw those out there. I'll be happy to look at anything. The next one that I was going to actually look at, I was going to get over into trading the Bitcoin pairs and just kind of show you this. This is the old school method. Remember, things like USDC, USDT were not out until after Ethereum was launched and got its footing. Tokens to be created on there, and that's where we got stablecoin. Before that, we were trading other coins against Bitcoin, sometimes Ethereum, sometimes even Litecoin. Those were usually the three stables of that time, if you want to look at it that way. Now, coin I'm looking at is Singularity.net. And the reason I want to bring this up in the Bitcoin pair, this is one of the coins that I look at. It's one that I've traded for a while, so I'm kind of familiar with how it behaves and how it does in a bear market and how it does in a bull market. Now, I'm on Binance here. I thought it would go back further on that. But it shows us the market, and it's good to have as much information as you can. That's why I'm disappointed that it all goes back to June of 21 on this. But if you can see, the price will come down, but it will bump back up, come back down. It's oscillating between, it's kind of like in a range, right? So if I take a rectangle pattern right here, just like this, we can identify a range. And if we trade this range with Bitcoin between, what are we talking about, 180 sats up to about 5 sats, even got up to 700 Satoshis right there. Can you see how if I buy one Bitcoin here worth of this, it's an outrageous number, but it makes it easy for math, right? So if I buy one Bitcoin's worth of AGIX at 200 Satoshis, and it goes up to 400 Satoshis, I've just doubled my Bitcoin that easy on this move. I don't trade with one Bitcoin. I'm not in that level yet, but I do trade portions of my Bitcoin and I double them by using this technique. So I will find a coin that I'm comfortable with trading, one that oscillates or has some degree of oscillation, that's range trading, buy it on these bottom ranges. This is where I'm accumulating. And then when we get past 2x mark, which is easy to do when we're down so low on these, especially on these low Satoshi coins, man. Library coin was one I used to really work. That and Red coin when I used to be over on Bittrex, I think I was trading over there. I flipped my Bitcoin so many times, even in bear markets over there, just doing this one technique, trading Bitcoin pairs, not for dollars. Whole idea for my strategy, and a lot of the people has been into this for a while, is to grow your Bitcoin. Because we believe wholeheartedly in Bitcoin versus the fiat, which keeps being printed. So that whole scarcity principle, when Bitcoin goes to 5 million 10 years from now or 20 years or whenever it gets there, I want to have more than the quarter of a Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? We're doing that. But this is a technique that you can use to build your Bitcoin. Very, very easy thing to do. Now, it takes a little while, and you want to make sure that you're getting in at these bottom ranges here and have a coin that you believe in, because, if something doesn't work out and you're stuck with it, you at least want to be stuck with a coin that's got a future, okay? And this one has done very well. This one has done extremely well. But let's look. If you could do like a long-term hold on this, but why not just take advantage of what we got right now, do a little bit of the trading and just, cycling your Bitcoin and watching it grow, man. I had I started this with $250 worth of, that was my first trade on this. You know that Bitcoin's worth up about $1,000 now where I recycled it? Just saying. Technique that you can use in this bear market to grow your Bitcoin, which will grow your wealth substantially once we get back into the bull market. For a long-term hold, this one's not a bad idea either. From where we are back up to the area where its previous highs last year, 675%, 6-7x if you want to do a long-term thing. But trading this range, you can get that 6 or 7x over time, buying low and selling harder areas. How many times could we have done that and made profit? Let's see, let's just count these spikes where it at least almost doubled from 200 or less, right? There was one, had to come back in and accumulate here. There's 2, 3, 4, maybe this one, maybe not that one. There's at least 4 to 5 good areas right through here where you could buy the bottom, flip it. Just a technique that I like to do. All right. So the next thing that I guess we'll look at, there is a rumor, XRP case may be closing soon. Let's take a little look at that. Let's take a look at that chart. I prefer KuCoin, but I am open to looking on any exchange. Looking on the daily, and let's see where we are on this. We had a regular head and shoulders up here. That's a bearish pattern. Did play out. It was a measured move from the tip of the head down to the neckline. Take that, put it down to the breakout point. That will give you a target. If you decided to get out of this trade at 44, 45 cents at this neckline, knew it was going to come back down to these areas, have a very good probability of hitting these areas. That target, 32, 39 cents. That would have been a great way either to short, or if you're just trading spot, you could have sold your position and you could have bought more, meaning that you would make your position larger because you're buying more coins with the money that you sold out here, increasing your position, which as XRP goes up, this makes you a little bit more richer. So there's a little nervousness, I think, right now with XRP. and a lawsuit, whether, you know, they will win it or not. It looks like they will. The only is that I can say about the federal government in those cases is a lot of times it looks like a case is going really, really good, and then get really surprised on that last day. Um, it's been known to happen. Not saying that's going to happen here, but we won't know until we hear what the judge actually says, and hopefully they will say it's not a security. I don't know. They've got to do something about that. But let's look at what's going on. We were rising up, and this, okay, we know we got an inverted head or a head and shoulders there, but it's also making another pattern too when you connect those lines, right? Symmetrical triangle. Now, one of the things I will beat on about a symmetrical triangle is that you just can't trust them. And I'm glad to see some other YouTubers are finally starting to say that too. You know, if it breaks to the upside, yeah, just don't give you that measure move just right up straight to the goalpost. No, they're going to fake you out, and they're going to come down and trade, and they will do this. And what they do is basically they make a wider trading range over time. And there's ways that they even follow the busting patterns of having busting or not going like they're supposed to. We call that a bust up to 3 times, which by that time I'm just ready to look for a new pattern instead of trying to figure out what this one's going to do. But in general, you just can't trust them. This one broke to the upside, came to the downside. Not surprising at all. But it does have a chance to continue up. So what I want to do is look at the indicators just to kind of see what the actual charts are telling me. So how I would do this, I'd probably take a trend line there. I want a big overall trend. I want to see what's going on. And then I will narrow that down to smaller trends and patterns within that. So I want to change this to a color I can see easier. Hit Control so I can copy that and move that and see if I see some confluence with that angle. A little bit there. We can get here, and that actually touches from this side of that. So I can, yeah, I will go with that. Go ahead and erase this head and shoulders so it's not as confusing anymore. So this appears to be the range that we are trading in. And again, like with Bitcoin, this is an upward channel. This is actually bearish. So it will have a tendency to break to the downside at some point, unless you get lucky at some point and it breaks to the upside. If that scenario happens here, it will be a good move after it finds support there. That's how this typically works. Usually it breaks to the downside, but on the chances that it does break out to the upside, usually has a really good move. So currently, big fan of that. This almost looks like support resistance flip. Okay, so what I'm actually seeing here, if I can get my lines to cooperate with me, let's just erase that a little bit. I want to draw these trend lines. And I want to use the little trick that I just did. Let me go to a smaller time frame, just so I can get just a little more information there. Let's draw a time frame. Let's go from this wick here. Let's carry. Okay, so we got 2 touches there. Not terrible, not great, but it's somewhere. That would be our ultimate bottom trend line right there. So far from the information we have. There's a good one. Okay, we got, get this out of the way. Got a touch there. Touches here, touches there. That looks pretty good. Can we adjust that? Let's take it just like that. Make all those touch. We do that, we see what we just had happen with Bitcoin too, where it broke below that, retested it, and actually made it back into the pattern. That's bullish in that sense. Let's take that and move it back down to its extremes here. According to extremes, it has not broken out of that pattern, but we tighten it up just a little bit. That does become valid there. So now we connect our top trend lines here and see what we got. This is making, it's really a symmetrical triangle. If you break it down, although it's leaning more to the top side, you can make an argument in this case that it's actually another channel. Okay. So that's really more of a falling wedge type thing, just because there's so much space here. You don't want space. So let's draw a line making our touches, and that will actually identify, the other side of the pattern there. That's falling wedge material. That has a positive break to the upside statistically. So that's given me some confluence that, XRP may be looking good. I'm not seeing the negative stuff so much, other than it's in an overall bearish pattern. But we know they can break out to the other side too if things are going in our favor. It at least looks that we will be coming back up to the top of this trend line area. That will bring us safely top, maybe up to around 43 cents. What I'm seeing possible with XRP. The biggest thing we want to look at, especially on this 4 hour, same thing I talked about Bitcoin, 200-day moving average right here, this yellow line. We need to get above that. That's at 39.7 cents, 39.8 cents. Flip that into support, then we can see this move up to about 43 and maybe higher, or you get rejected there. We'll just have to see what happens after that. There's several scenarios that could play out after that, but right now it's looking good, looking strong. And this right here, this area, we're seeing all this trading. It's made a range right there. That's a support resistance area. That's where we're trying to flip. Draw a horizontal line. It was at 35 right there. That's what I want to see flip immediately, and then come up to 39.6 for that 200 EMA. If we can flip both of those, it's looking positive for XRP in my opinion. All right. Well, guys, I think I pretty much went over everything that I was going to, other than Ethereum. Let's take a look at Ethereum, see what it is. I'm on Ethereum on Tether, Ethereum Tether pair here on Binance. Let's just go to the daily so we can see what's going on overall. Been a while since I was over on that area trading. So we're in a breakout area. And again, I like to take that, copy it, and then find my channel. And you can see that we've also got a partial decline. We're getting stuck right here, right? Mark. So there's our area of support around 1062 in that area, which we found, and we kept that as support back here, and recently in those areas. Very good. Let's draw another trend line for something just a little bit more close to home. And you can see where this one may not hold, and it may not have to. If you are currently in a trade on this, that's the line in the sand I would be looking at, especially if you're using leverage. If it breaks down below that, you would be looking, back down to about 1100 to 1065, that area. If this trend line does not hold, notice I'm on the daily here. We can go down to a smaller time frame, but this is still where we got to go. These 200-day moving averages. On the daily, once we get that official bear trend, our official bull trend for Ethereum or whatever coin you're looking for, your initial sign to that to look for is on the 4 hour. And we're trying to do it, baby. We're trying to do it on Ethereum. Ethereum breaks above 1270 and holds that. It's been hard for it to do so far. If we break above 1271, 1270 and hold that, Ethereum has more upside in the picture. We also have inverted head and shoulders there, that playing out. That means that this area right here at 1230ish, that should be our support resistance area. We should not go below that. If we do, that spells big trouble for a lot more downward action. So let's go ahead and mark that. And you can see that lines up with this neckline for this inverted head and shoulders. So the deal is you come back and retest this area, which we did. We got a bounce, came back. Now it's retesting this line. That line wasn't really there, was it? We were to tighten that. Go. Need 2 touches on that, not counting the one that I'm at right. So let's tighten that up just a little. Now it's official. So I got to have 1 touch. Could have done it over here. And that one's a little scary. Broke through that, kind of above it. That's looking kind of shaky. This one with 2 points. We're under it now, but like I said, it's a guy signs pointing that we're going to break back up to the upside here. If you wanted a line in the sand, I would do what I call an order of operations. That's where you go to the next lower low, trust your trend line. Now you've got a new angle, okay? You can have a new, more flexible line in the sand this way. So trading this, I would say if we break below 1251, close below that, I would expect some more downside. Here is my paintbrush. So according to this trend, we are still good. That's the actual trend line that's in effect right now. That's the one that it's working with. And this is the actual pattern that we're looking at right now, which looks to be more of an ascending triangle. That's bullish. It knocks on this door so many times, so it knocks again, and that door opens. We go to the upside, retest, more upside, also going along this trend line. That's what I'm looking for with Ethereum. It looks like we're slowly making our way up. This pattern, that's a good one. I still want to see this play out with a little bit more touches up here, around here, to make this more of a true ascending. But that looks good to me. I would just watch this level 1251 breaking below that, and then that spells trouble for more downward action, probably down to 1,000, 1,100. All right, guys. I'm not seeing anything popping off in the chat right now. We'll go ahead and call this a stream. Talked about the things that I was looking over. Was going to talk about Toncoin, but I may just wait for a video on that one. So until next time, guys, I hope you got some value from this. This can help you in your trading, and also help you over, this week for what we see going on with Bitcoin and some of these other Ethereum and some of these other coins that we took a look at. Mostly just took a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and then what I showed you with the AGIX Singularity.net, my little trick for growing Bitcoin in these bear markets. Till next time, my name is Lane, your Crypto Road Dog, wishing you the best. Trade safely. Be positive. Keep your thoughts pure. Just express that gratitude, man. You are in this area. You are in crypto at the right time to make life-changing gains. Even if you're just dabbling right now, it's going to be hard to mess it up from here on out, okay? Even if we drop down to $10,000 in Bitcoin and the market crashes, you're still at a good time. It's not going to last very much longer. We're about to start going to the upside slowly over these next few months. Trade carefully, trade wisely. See you on the next one.